that represents the undefeated Jackson Jr., who we will now see in our co-feature here. Light heavyweight battle. Jackson Jr., much talked about Brazilian Umberto Savigne, a former Cuban national. As we look at Jackson Jr., 27-year-old from Sao Paulo, Brazil, 5'11.5", came in at 175.5. The amateur pedigree is there, 7 times tops in Brazil. Bio's got him at number 8 already at light heavyweight. 13 of his 14 fights have been in his home country. Then he came up here to upstate New York back in January and scored a first-round knockout against Dante Craig. And Umberto Savigne is 34 years old, 6'1", 175 pounds, a pro record now of 10-1, was an accomplished member of the Cuban national team for many years and came over to the U.S. in 2009. The BA's got him at number 5. The BC's got him in the top 10 at 175 pounds. Time to see what the fighters need to do to look like a champ. Brought to you by Just for Men, Teddy.
Well, let's start with Junior. He was on the floor, that being, of course, the opponent, Savigne, was on the floor in his last fight. Press him, he may be a little unsure early. And for Savigne, well, find a place to land your left hook.
So Umberto Savigne and Jackson Jr. set to go with Mark Nelson, the referee, scheduled for 10.
You know exactly what I expect. Please give me a good, clean fight and protect yourself at all times. Obey the bell. Touch them up. Good luck to both of you.
I'm going to say Savigne. I said Savigne. It sounds like an after-dinner drink.
Get a round of those?
Not now. Not now. But I have a funny feeling somebody in this fight's going to feel like they had around them. Both guys can punch.
You don't see this as a distance fight?
The chance that it may not be a distance fight. I mean, first of all,
they sparred against each other, Teddy, before they knew they were going to sign on to fight each other. Probably just, I think, a week before they signed the contract, they ended up having a sparring session together down in South Florida.
Yes, only 1.5 months ago, actually. If they knew they were going to fight each other, they never, of course, would have gotten in the ring with each other. Maybe given some answers to the other one that they would look to take advantage of tonight. But the only one who commented on it was Junior. He said that he said about Savigne, he moves very well and he punches hard. And actually Savigne had something a little stronger to say. He did comment on it too. He said we went 4 rounds and his people stopped it in the 4th round. Who knows if that's true? And he said, I think nothing of him, meaning thinking nothing of Junior. So we'll find out whether or not his opinion has changed a little bit as this fight goes on. But to me, one of the ominous things, maybe, if you're back of Savigne, is he was on the floor in his last fight with a 26, 22, and 11 opponent. So that's not a good sign. And maybe a worse sign was his only loss has come by knockout. And he was knocked out by a 10, 14, and 1 opponent.
That was his 3rd fight back in 2010. Came against Harvey Jolly down there in Florida.
Savigne has Mickey Ward in his corner as an assistant trainer. Mickey Ward now working down in Florida with this group of fighters. He likes it. He's enjoying it. I talked to him today, actually, Joe, and I asked him how it was going with the training of the fighters, and in particular with the fighter tonight, Savigne, and what he thought of him. He said he's a good puncher. I said, what do you think that on the weak side? He said, well, he gets a little reckless, drops his hands a little bit, especially his left hand every once in a while. And I said, well, are you getting through to him? He said, well, Teddy, they don't speak English. They all speak Spanish. And the only Spanish word I know is go to the body. And I said, well, that figures, Mickey.
He's one of the best of all time doing that.
So I would expect to see Savigne go to the body a little bit, since that's, as far as Mickey goes, that's the only word he's been yelling at him.
But that's not a far leap for you in your training career, Teddy. I mean, you've ventured off to Russia, obviously unable to speak the language, and handled a top contender who went on to win a title.
Yeah, 2.5 years training Alexander Povetkin. I did have an interpreter with me all the time, which helped.
Obey the bell here, guys. Time!
So glad you're with us here, Joe Tessitore, Teddy Atlas. Donatas Bondes will be in our main event, taking on Brian Vera, a guy we're very familiar with, and a guy who now has some career momentum. Teddy, how do you see it?
Well, you know, first of all, Joe, you might have heard, the Miami Heat has cooled off a little bit, but the NCAA college basketball tournament, well, it's still red hot. So the question to me right here tonight is whether or not Vera will score a layup against the much less experienced Bondes. I don't think so. After all, it is March Madness, and the #1 seeds, the top seeds, well, they've been dropping like flies. I see a barn burner, believe it or not, with Bondes. Much less experienced, but a guy that covers up pretty good. He's a game guy. He punches straight. He doesn't have that experience, but against Vera, who's now 31 years old, who always makes good fights, I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say that. Vera made for a really good-looking fight last time we were here from the fans' perspective against the recent titleist in Zurich. But there were some boxing scribes out there this week that felt that Bondes is just completely overmatched against the rugged, tough veteran Vera. You see it the other way. You think we could have something decent here in our main event. A main event in which there's a lot on the line for Vera. We'll go through it a little later on, but some of the big fights that could be out there for Vera, he would very much like to cash in with a win tonight and launch himself into that space. So that's coming up in our main event. Teddy will have the fight plan and get you set for that live ringside just prior to the opening bell.
Junior's been in soft, 14-0, 12 knockouts. Right away you wonder, is it power or is it soft opposition? Well, I can tell you, Junior's been in there with a lot of soft opposition. Matter of fact, he's been visiting the senior tour lately. 3 of his last 5 fights versus 2 38-year-olds and a 37-year-old. Savigne has been picking on the seniors a little bit.
Some guys that we're familiar with, they used to fight on Friday Night Fights often. Epifanio Mendoza, Richard Hall.
Yeah, 2 fights ago, he knocked out 40-year-old Richard Hall. Savigne did. All but 1 fight for Savigne in Florida, the other also in the South, North Carolina. That's a place where, those are both places where you can build up records fairly easy.
Cuban landed a left hook moments ago. He's in the white trunks, 10-1. Teddy noted the one humbling loss. Jackson Jr. in the blue, perfect 14-0 with 12 knockouts, the Brazilian.
Well, right now, the dog in this fight coming forward is Junior, the cat, and Savigne laying back, looking to scratch the eyes out of Junior. I don't know if he's looking to scratch his eyes out. He's probably looking to knock his block off with a big shot, like Mickey Ward says he can punch, but the aggressor is definitely Junior.
Short shot on the inside from Jackson Jr. And now a series of left hands as Savigne tries to fight back. A long-range right hand from Umberto as he pushes Jackson Jr. back. And now he's got him on wobbly feet.
Well, he had him on wobbly feet a little bit.
Unsteady, hanging on to the top rope, and he goes down.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You ready to go?
That's the problem with being aggressive against a good banger. Junior was being the dog, chasing the cat. Right now, the cat's looking to bite the dog, and that would be Savigne. Mickey Ward said he can bang, and he can bang.
The undefeated Jackson Jr. in trouble here at the end of round number 2. Remember earlier in the round, we noted the left hook. Here it is.
Well, I see a right hand, to be honest with you, that hurt him. And that's what it was. The right hand has already made him go backwards. The right hand by Savigne. And now, nothing real big there, but his legs were already discombobulated. And then you see him leaving himself wide open, missing a big right hand. Just bad technique right there and a little desperation from Junior. But Savigne had already hurt Junior with the right hand earlier. And he was on wobbly legs and found himself tripping all over the ring.
Umberto Savigne risked his life to leave Cuba. A suppressing hardship there in 2009. Came on a raft made of inner tubes and boards, and now pressing forward in his pro career based out of Miami at 34 years old.
And you wonder about the options of Junior. You know that old saying, you paint yourself into a corner of a room? Junior, he's aggressive again, even after being hurt by the better puncher, Savigne, or the big puncher, Savigne. You just wonder if he's painting himself in a corner, walking forward again towards the wheelhouse of Savigne. Just look at Savigne. He's bigger and stronger. I mean, he looks like the much bigger fighter in this fight, and so far has translated into the bigger puncher.
Don't punch. No, don't punch.
Savigne turned pro. I talk about him being the bigger guy here, Joe. He turned pro a much bigger guy, a weight class bigger. Turned pro as a cruiserweight, almost a small heavyweight. Seems to have gotten more serious after he was knocked out in his first and only loss. He was 192 pounds in that fight. And then he came back after that, and he was down to, well, around the weight what he fights now. He was down to 178. Tonight he's 175.
Came with a 1-2 against Jackson Jr. and scored that time right up the middle.
Work out.
Let's not forget, though, maybe a little China in the chin of Savigne. We'll find out.
Up. Right.
One loss was by knockout. If I'm in the corner of Junior, I'm going to remind him to keep his confidence up. I'm going to remind him of that fact.
He's also knocked down with a left hook in his last fight. You noted that early on tonight. There's a short right hand as Junior was off to that right side.
Quick, don't punch. No.
Junior is 6 years younger. Needs to use some of that youth.
Wide swinging right hand from Jackson Jr.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done. Those telegraph punches where you're basically screaming, here I come. Right now where I see Junior really missing the boat is he's not pressing behind his jab. He wants to press. Somebody in that corner needs to tell him, all right, son, if you want to press behind that jab. Put some bugs on the windshield of Savigne. Make it hard for him to see you coming.
Coming to the end of round number 3. Savigne had him hurt at the end of 2. Getting set for our main event includes Donatas Bondes. Bernardo has more on him.
All right, Joe. Donatas Bondes had 4 fights in 2002, but he became a pro boxer in earnest in 2009. Let's take a look at the fighter facts brought to you by the United States Marine Corps. Donatas Bondes had a strong amateur background with over 220 amateur fights, 190 victories, and 5-time Lithuanian national champion. He's won 5 fights in a row, including the last 3 by knockout, a pair of those 2 second-round knockouts over David Thomas. Why did he become so aggressive lately? Because he lost a controversial decision to Willie Fortune. That was in January of 2011 on the undercard of Evander Holyfield against Sherman Williams, and he said to himself, I will not leave it in the judge's hands. Tonight, here on Friday Night Fights, he steps up in class against Brian Vera, looking to do what the Warrior from Austin has done to so many others, derail his dream of a world title shot.
And former Lithuanian amateur has been fighting as a pro out of Chicago, won 5 straight fights, and he also came to us this week and said, I'd like to be known as Donatas Bondes when his formal name is Bondarovis, but he wants to go by Bondes. So the truncated last name, we will see in our main event if we have a truncated fight, if Vera can get rid of him, or as Teddy says, we have something that's probably a little more competitive than most think.
Well, if he can fight tonight and if he pulls off a big upset tonight.
Oh, a right hand scores. second knockdown of the night for Umberto Savigne.
The same punch,
6,
another right hand.
7, 8. You ready? Come here. Come here. Okay.
So another knockdown scored here.
And right now you can see Savigne looking to score with that right hand again, using that jab, not to score, not to knock Junior back, but just to set him up. Just to mesmerize him with that left hand a little bit and looking for a spot to split the guard with a right hand. George Foreman used to do that. Use that jab just to mesmerize you, to blind you a little bit, and then do that. Sneak the right hand in. Again, same thing. Pushes with the jab and then right hand. I don't know why the referee is yelling to Junior. Junior's got enough problems without worrying about a referee yelling at him. He's got right hands crashing down on him. Right now you see a little adjustment from Junior, who's very raw with his technique. You know, he's very undeveloped. Too wide with the shots, leaves holes. And Savigne has filled some of those holes, but
two left hands just filled them.
But you can see Junior, what he's trying to do is look for the right spot. For right now, the right spot is the right hand from Savigne.
Third time he's down. And he's on unsteady ground.
8. Come here, walk to me. Come here. Come here. You ready to go? Want to continue?
50 seconds to try to survive it. The 3 knockdown rule is in effect.
And again, all right hands.
That's it. It's over. First loss in the career of Jackson Jr. and a good, solid win for Umberto Savigne.
Funny thing, I'm not knocking the stoppage too much here. I mean, obviously, Savigne had Junior hurt, not only this round, but round before. But look to me there, like Junior's feet just slipped from underneath him, although he had been hurt before that. Take a look at the replay in a little while, and we'll get a better look. But either way, this fight is over. Little cut there in the corner of the left eye of Junior.
Umberto Savigne with a big win here on Friday Night Fights against the much talked about Jackson Jr.
Well, it looks like just a big left hook there that was thrown away, but that set up the right hand. And this time the right hand lands because the head of Junior is in the wrong area, over on his right side. That's in the pathway, the alleyway of the right hand. And at the end here, you're going to see that he's already hurt Junior. Damage has been done. There's the jab that discombobulates him. And as I thought, his legs just went out from underneath him. Not a huge punch. A jab that knocks him off balance. And his legs go out from underneath him. But the damage had been done already. And Junior, well, he was in a little bit of dizzy land.
Jackson Jr. made his U.S. debut here in this ring back in January. Had a first-round knockout, 12 knockouts in 14 fights. But, Teddy, you said either way, this thing could end early. Boy, did it in impressive fashion by the former Cuban national. Let's go up to the ring to Ray Flores.
Ladies and gentlemen, the end comes at 2 minutes, 17 seconds of the 4th round. Referee in charge, Mark Nelson, puts a stop to this contest for your winner by technical knockout and the new WBO Latino light heavyweight champion, Umberto El Don Savigne.
11th win of his career, 8th knockout. He's now won 9 straight. Nice to have Ray Flores with us tonight, by the way, from ESPN 1000 in Chicago. We're going to take